way it's just consistency. That way you don't have to worry about it. It's mainly for like debugging later if if something doesn't work. Do you have a question back there? Good. All right, cool. So now it's time to bring in the background itself. So we're in the top section here. We're going to use background, image, zoom in. I'm starting to get used to that slowly. So background, image, and actually I need. Yeah, it's true. So background, image, and then you're going to put URL. And then I put single quotations. Doesn't really matter. You can put double. And then, so now you're going to tell the computer the path to get to where that image is. So we're currently in the CSS folder, right? Because we're in the style file, which is in the CSS folder. So if you were to tell me how to get to that folder from here, I would say exit the CSS folder, go into the images folder, and find whatever the file is called, right? So the way we tell the computer that is we say exit this folder, so that's 2 periods, / So exit this folder. So now we're in this test.github.io folder, and we want to say look for the images folder, then go into the images folder.
Can you enlarge that?
Excuse me?
Can you enlarge it anymore?
Zoom in more?
Yeah. Is that a star or an asterisk, or is that a? It looks like you've got apostrophes. Apostrophe?
Yeah, so these are single quotations. You can do double quotations, either one. And then now we're in the right folder, so we just have to give it the right name. However, I did something wrong. I didn't? Oh yeah, thank you. Good call. Thank you for that. Yep. All right, so now we have the folder, or we have the file over here, so it's hero-bg-dark-jpeg. You could have renamed it if you wanted to, but so that's what that line looks like. In my mind, no. But he said because there's no spaces, it works without quotes. I just get in the. I just do whenever I do something. I just do whatever I choose to do consistently. So I always use single quotes no matter what, just to keep the consistency. But yes, you're correct. Yeah. Sure. All right, so we all have that in. Now once we save it, we go over here, reload the page, and you see the background image. So one thing to note is we've just brought this background image in. So basically what happens is if all you do is declare what the background image is, the browser defaults to putting it aligning it top left. This background image we have, though, is really would come down to, I don't know, somewhere around here, and it would go way to the right of the screen. Okay? So there's other attributes for that as well. So what we're going to do is first we'll talk about background position. So if I change this, if I go to, first we'll talk about background position. So background position, you have position X, and you have position Y. So actually, we'll just do background position. The first value you give it, let's go ahead, actually. It'll be easier to explain. Background position X. So on the X-axis, do you want it left? So it automatically defaults to left. You could have it laid out so that it centers the image. That's center. You see the image move more, and you could have it start on the right side, so the very right side of the image. Okay. We also have that with background position Y. You have top, which is the default. That's why you don't see it change. You have center. So now this is laid out on the Y-axis, and you have bottom. So you can combine the two into just background position itself and make sure you include both values. So I'm just going to say center, center. All right, so it's going to center it on the X and Y axis. And then we have background, you have background repeat. So if you had, a smaller, if the image was smaller than the size of the element that it was the background of, you could have it repeat. By default, it does no repeat. You can have it repeat solely across the X-axis. You can have it repeat solely across the Y-axis. You see all the different options here. And one thing, I'm not going into too much in depth into these, but you can always, what I encourage you to do is just, go, whenever you have questions about certain properties, just, Google it. Simple as that. And for the most part, I don't encourage you to use W3 schools at all. For any other language other than HTML and CSS, it's not bad to use it with. You're going to, if you continue to do this for the 10 weeks, the JavaScript and other instructors are going to highly discourage you to look at that. But for HTML and CSS, I don't think it's that bad. So you can come in here, look at W3 schools, see the different background properties, color, image, repeat, attachment, position, and they'll go into the shorthand property, which is this is the combination of all of them, which I'll show you here in a second. So the one thing we want to go over right now is background size. So just check this out, see what we come up with, get practicing that. I like to go to CSS tricks, that's my favorite. So the big ones with background size, as with background size, if you don't specify it, it defaults, as I said, to the images. Well, it defaults to the background of the element, but if the image is smaller than the background element, it'll just default to that. All right. Now there's a bunch of different values you can look up for this, but the big one is you can do like numbers in terms of like width and height. But I really like, that's nice and simple, is cover. And what cover does, where are we at? There we go. What cover does is it makes sure that the image covers the full background of that element. And the way it works is, so this image is very wide compared to what it is long, right? So you have, for instance, trying to think where to write this. You have a box that's like this, and then you have an image that's much wider. Our image is much wider right now than this top section is, okay? With cover, what it's going to do is make sure that it goes, since this is the longer This is the longer axis. It's going to make sure that it squishes this into up there, left to right, all right? And what's going to happen, I'm sorry. What it's going to do is it's going to make this come in. So there's going to be extra left and right. Does that make sense? So the limiting factor is the height. So it's going to fit this box right inside here. So that the height is the limiting factor. So it makes sure it's completely top to bottom. So we're seeing the full image top to bottom right now, but we have some of the left and the right cut out. And that's because we did background position center. If we did background position left, then this would slide over to the left, and more of the right would be cut off. Okay? There's other things. We'll get into more complex stuff as the week goes on. I'll show you different ways to make sure that the image covers the entire page, no matter what. You know how you come to some sites and it's just boom, image is on the entire page. There's ways to do that nice and easy as well. So for right now, we have all this stuff, and we can just, and I'm just going to go ahead and show you a shorthand property for background. This is just combining them. So we have background, URL, images. Actually, boom. Stop it. So no repeat. We don't want it to repeat, and we want it to align itself center x-axis, center y-axis. I don't know why that's not. I'll do it within the program itself. So this is the shorthand property for the background. You put in the image first. Well, you put in the color first, but we don't have a color. Well, it's already up here. And then you put in the URL, and then you put in whether you want it to repeat, and you put it whether we positioned it on the X and Y axis. So we did center for both of those. No. If we had a smaller image that wasn't the full width of the screen, and we didn't put a size in there, it wouldn't cover the full screen unless we did cover, and then it would stretch it to fit within the. Would there be a place to write cover in there in this shorthand? I don't think you can do background size in the shorthand. Let me see. Yeah. See, he. Yeah, not supported by this browser. Yeah, it's like its own. At least from what I've come across so far. How are we doing on that? Everybody got it? Got it in? Still working some? One more, just while it's coming across my head. You see all the coloring the syntax coloring here. If for some reason you change something in your file and it's not showing like as you thought it would when you go to reload it in your browser, check for different coloring. So for instance, if I take that closing bracket out right here, see how this changed to blue? So that's one way to debug your CSS files. If you have weird coloring, something's wrong. She's got him. Nice. I'm back, camera.